An immediate concern at the law firm was that he would say too much. The $1 million was available to the psychiatrist to keep anything from coming out. The one reason for all these protections was the greatest demon that was dogging Johnson at the time, and that was the assassination of John Kennedy and the role he played in it. We had to keep it covered up, and for sure we had to keep the psychiatrist muzzled, and we did. But if any one set of records needs to be produced, the psychiatric records should be disclosed to the American public, because they will, I am confident, disclose his role in the assassination.
Only 4 years after leaving office, Johnson died. But there are those living who are still afraid to come forward to tell what they know about the guilty men.
People are afraid of him dead. He's been dead since 1973, and his shadow still casts fear in this country, especially in Texas.
We'll wrap up American Perspectives tonight with an oral history from Don Hewitt. He's better known today as the creator of 60 Minutes. But in November 1963, he was the executive producer of the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
I am still not satisfied that there isn't a lot more to the Lee Harvey Oswald story, especially, now this will stun you, since one of the respected Republicans who ever held office, Republicans, really solid guy, said to me in front of witnesses that he once asked Richard Nixon, "What do you know about the Kennedy assassination?" And Nixon said, "You don't want to know." I tell you, I got cold chills that morning. Somebody told me just this morning that Jackie's papers have some revelations about the assassination. I don't know if that's true or not. But I am so convinced that one guy did not plan, and that the theories that a Richard Nixon, you don't want to know. But do you know that when Earl Warren, you could find this quote, and you probably have it, walked out on the steps after the last Warren report said, "We may not know the truth in our lifetime." And I said, wait a minute, what does he mean by that? There were so many things going on. I don't know whether the Dallas Police Department was in on this thing. You've got Lee Harvey Oswald in your jail. There hasn't been a more important prisoner since John Wilkes Booth. That they didn't cordon off at least a square mile around that. They would cordon off the jail after they got Terry McNichols and the guys in Oklahoma City. That they handled him so cavalierly that a Jack Ruby walks into that garage. All the cameramen are in there. How do you know who those cameramen are? You don't know who those people are. They are treating him like he's some pickpocket they picked up on the street. Now, Ruby kills Oswald. The Dallas police grab Ruby. The next thing I know, I see Ruby in the hallway on television of the police headquarters being interviewed by guys, and I'm saying, wait a minute, you just lost the most important prisoner in the history of the United States, next to maybe John Wilkes Booth. Now you've got the third most direct, because this is the guy who could be your link to what happened. And you're treating him like you picked up some pickpocket on the street. The police work in this town was atrocious. Now here's what I also can't figure. I can't figure out, if nobody in Washington is involved in this, why a J. Edgar Hoover isn't on the phone saying to the police chief here, I forget his name. Jesse Curry, saying, "Jesse, for Christ's sake, will you cordon off the police station? Stop leaving these guys out there and let the press come and talk to them. Are you nuts? What kind of police work is that?" Nobody did. you think about it. There's a Watergate connection here. That's the same crowd. Do I know it? No, I don't know it for sure. But am I about 99% sure of it? Yes.
I'll show you a map upstairs. That one of the chill elements for me was when I first started working here researching things. If you draw Oswald was put out at the rooming house in Oak Cliff where he lived.
Yeah, right.
And he started walking, which was south,
right,
down, and he got to the intersection of Patton and 10th where he shot Officer Tippit.
Right.
If you keep drawing that straight line, because at that point he turns and goes west to the Texas Theater. If you go that straight line, you hit Jack Ruby's apartment. He goes about 10 blocks, halfway to Ruby's apartment if you go straight. Now, if you turn, and you start on the other way, you obviously go to the Texas Theater. So it's just, there again, it's one of those moments you go, where was he going? Because obviously you don't walk this far.
That bears out my feeling that the two of them knew each other. I have no doubt.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, do I know any more than that? No. I wish I knew more than that. Would I have loved to have been the guy who broke that story? Did I think we had it? The guy who was working with us was the attorney for the Republican senator who said, Nixon said, you don't want to know. Nixon knew a lot. I think Lyndon Johnson knew a lot. I think, well, you know, there are people who think Lady Bird did it. Lyndon Johnson put Allen Dulles on the Warren Commission, I think, to kind of calm the country down. I think they thought if the truth ever comes out here, we are ripe for a revolution.
This is the day that Johnson was going to get his revenge. Johnson didn't particularly like Jack Kennedy. He hated Bobby Kennedy. J. Edgar Hoover has told me that chapter and verse. And so
if you just keep in mind who profited most from the assassination, and then ask yourself some questions. Who appointed the members of the Warren Commission? And who runs the CIA, which has concealed a tremendous amount of evidence? And who runs the FBI?
I think there's a possibility that one could have come from in front of us. We've never been able to prove that. But just in my mind, and by the direction of the blood and brain from the president from one of the shots, it would just seem that it would have to be fired from the front rather than behind.
Had Kennedy lived, I think we'd have had no Vietnam War, with all of its traumatic and divisive influences in America.
If Kennedy had not been killed, if Khrushchev had not been thrown out of power, we would have seen the Cold War come to an end much, much sooner.
The Warren Commission, I think, either was unable to learn the truth and to complete the investigation, or they decided to conceal some of the truth based on what they saw as the vital interest of the nation. Whatever has been written more recently about John F. Kennedy, about his personal life and some personal weaknesses, I hold that he was a great president. He had great plans for the future of the United States and the world, that had great promise for the entire world. The world could have turned out quite differently if those plans were realized. And my question is, was this really to the liking of some people both in your country and perhaps in our country and elsewhere? That's my question.